And there is also the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia, which began 2 weeks before the solstice, usually traditionally, with a sacrifice to the temple of Saturn. And then the whole point of Saturnalia is the breaking down. And we see this every year if you think about the office parties that go on, and the sense of panic and excess, and this extraordinary sort of climax as Sagittarius reaches its end. It's even that there's a panic in the air, and Sagittarius is so often connected to panic. And I watch it every year, and people start saying, "Oh, you can't have it before Christmas." It's and it's like, what? It's become a sort of arbitrary reason to panic. Now we have Black Monday. Is it Black Friday? Whatever. They're trying to generate more expense, more excessive expenditure. So that's how it gets commercialised. So everything has been. It's also a time traditionally of the turning of the tables, the election of the Lord of Misrule. So it was a time when, in Roman times anyway, the servants would be served by their masters, and that's a deliberate way of saying, let's break down the old order, break it all down, turn the tables, and have a completely new. Time of chaos deliberately. So what I've done here, I've just done this a little bit like the Ladybird book of zodiac signs. So it's just to give lots of images. So here's Advent calendars, candles, countdown, Saturnalia, which became a complete festival of decadence. Leading up to this time, but it does help to understand what drives Sagittarius. And then, of course, when Capricorn comes, when the sun eventually reaches the solstice point, this is the most profound point, turning point of the year, and everything changes, and the world stands still, time stands still. It's a period of profound reorientation. So we try to understand the difference between Sag and Capricorn. It's massive. It's always been considered the beginning and end of time itself. The breathing in and out, the point of the breathing in and out of the cosmos. That's, I think, why we have the Anticia, which are based around this point. It's the darkest time of the year. But there's a profound connection to spirit. Now the spirit is born, the sun is reborn, and so there's a sense of renewal on this cardinal axis. And this was the time in ancient Egypt when we had the 5 days of where the gods time would stand still, and the gods would actually manifest. And Dane Rajag says, such spiritual opens were celebrated by rituals in ancient civilizations which were very close to the pulse of seasonal life. So again, this idea of the spirit becoming incarnated. Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, obviously, the natural order is restored. It's a traditional day for the landowners to give presents back to their farmers, so everything's restored again to its natural order. Janus was the god, sacred. 1st of January was sacred to Janus, ruler of time, ruler of change, ruler of all beginnings and endings, transitions from one condition to another, there's so mastery over time, and the association of Capricorn with time is very, very strong. Jurisdiction over all beginnings, and of course, on the first, and very auspicious. There's a sense of Janus being connected to auspices. So on the 1st of January, it became traditional to exchange cheerful words and Happy New Year. It's that sense that this is a ritual beginning, new beginning, 1st of the month, 1st of the year. Roman god of boundaries and barriers. So it tells us very much about borders, Capricorn, gates, doors, guardian of the gates of heaven. And of course, all of this time is still because the Epiphany, the 12 days of Christmas, which begins at the solstice, the stillness, until after the 12 days of Christmas, you have the 6th of January, and then it is recognised that the Spirit has been made flesh. And in Capricorn, in Christianity, this is about the recognition of the Magi, that the Spirit has been made flesh. And so the presents they bring are symbolic of the fact that a king has been born, that is also divine, and a king will come to die. So the whole association of death as well, manifestation, incarnation and death. Right at the start, I don't know if you've noticed, and I've started to notice these things, the very big first day of Aquarius, the birds are singing. And they know something, the quality of the light changes. And it's obviously, there's this hope in the air. Spring is in the air. And it's very still, cold air for the first half of this fixed sign, until the middle of the fixed sign, which is when the fixed signs break down and change, which is Imbolc, 1st of February, an ancient festival, one of the cross-quarter days. And this is when it's meant to be the onset of lactation of the ewes, so the beginning, spring lamb, and fertility returning to the earth. And the goddess Bridget, guardian of nature and protector of the wells, the springs of life, so the water of life, it begins to flow again. And she was also, and I find this very interesting, goddess of the hearth and of the forge, and of metalwork, in the particular sense that of making mirrors, scrying mirrors for looking into the future. And that's, I think, a lovely Aquarius image, this ability to see the unrevealed truth, events still to take place, and actually therefore associated with prophecy. She's also the patron of scholars, again, the life of the mind, poets, colleges. So a very intellectual, forward-looking goddess. And it's also the time traditionally where you would, in the very Aquarian, time for spring cleaning, first spring cleaning, because you can suddenly see all the cobwebs and so on, and the return of the light, which is so Aquarian, out with the old and in with the new. And it manifests then, this is the sense of this enormous sense of cold, that there is in the cold air. This is from the Book of Hours of the Duke of Berry, which is people just going about their frozen winter tasks. And then suddenly you get Imbolc, another festival of light, and the lands are born. This sense of hope. Hopes and wishes, isn't it, Aquarius? So we can see why that, it's rooted in the seasons. It becomes makes absolute sense.